What's up, everybody? Anthony from granddaddyHerps. I got 2 new pickups today. A lot of you guys knew through following me on Facebook what I was getting. The exact morph, I didn't really announce it, but a lot of people knew I was after certain types of morphs. Let's see what I got. So the thing with garter snakes is there's a ton of morphs out there, but the availability is very small. I had to look so far and wide to be able to purchase these two. You can see the tail of one of them. So these are albino, I got 2 of them, albino checkered garter snakes. I was after some more expensive albino garter morphs, but there's not, and again, to the availability, there's not going to be anywhere until spring. And I searched, I'm telling you, every classifieds I could find. This is a new project I want to get into, is garter snakes. My very first snake was a garter snake. Totally underrated species to work with. These guys, if you want a snake that's got a lot of personality, a lot of spunk, and something that can't like rip your hand off or like inflict a lot of damage, garter snakes are awesome. They are definitely not a sit still type of snake. These guys are constantly exploring. They eat a lot of different things, like different types of fish, different types of worms, frogs, you name it. A bunch of different things in the wild. You can get them on mice when they're adults, pinky mice when they're juveniles. See if I can find the other one. These guys are really good burrowers. I saw the tail, and I got so lucky to be able to get these, and not only that, I got a male and a female on top of that, so I basically hit the jackpot. And I called a bunch of reptile stores this morning, and one just so happened to say, you know, I got 2 left if you want them. And I offered to even pay for them over the phone because they were about an hour drive away from me. And the guy's like, no, I'll put them on hold for you. And sure enough, he put them on hold. And then when I got there, I spoke to one of the guys at the front counter, and I was like, yeah, I'm here to pick up the 2 garter snakes. And he kind of was just like, oh. And then in my head, I was like, dude, do not tell me they sold them. And he's like, I knew I should have taken these home the other day when my wife said it was okay to. So he was bummed that I came to actually pick them up. Gorgeous. And these aren't too expensive. You can get these anywhere from 30 bucks if you're lucky up to 100 bucks. Definitely size matters. I'm loving this one. This one's a lot bigger than the other one, and purples are just glowing. So yeah, I got very lucky, like I was saying. I picked them up at the right time. These were the only ones for sale in San Diego. Like I'm telling you, the only ones that were for sale. And I got lucky and got 1.1, which is awesome. He doesn't remember which one is the male and which one's the female, but they did sex them at one point in time. And you know, I'm taking it slow with these guys. I'm gonna try to research as much as I can, and then come spring, I'm definitely gonna pick up some higher end garter snake morphs. I'm looking for some Iowa albinos and some Nebraska T positive albinos. So I'm gonna definitely get into the different like albino like morphs. So yeah. Alright guys, want to show you the setup I got the garter snake setup in. Got them quarantining right now, away from the other collection. Have it on a shelf in another room, but I wanted to bring it in here because I get the best lighting in here. This is where I do a lot of my videos. So there's going to be a little bit of a glare. You can see the setup here. So there's a cave. So basically how I have it set up is I got a heat pad on this side that goes right at about here, and then in the very back I got a temp gauge. You can see it's 83.4 because I had the heat pad on, so temperature is going to drop in there a little bit. But I have the probe going all the way down underneath and into the back of this little cave. It's right there in that little corner right there. So I get a temperature reading on the warm side, and then it's set up to have a gradient. So we get over here, you have the water dish, and then we have another thermostat that goes down through the back and up right here to the front, so I get a temperature on, you know, opposite ends. Let's get this open. The garters are in there and they already found hiding spots, so not gonna get to see them. Might be able to, but here's a view from up top. So got a hide here, realistic looking hide. Got another little hide right there. That's more so for, you know, giving it a lot of space to hide, especially while it's young. So got the water dish again. Got this cool little piece of wood here that I had from an old setup I had. Got some wood back there, little wood tower, some vines, stuff they can climb on. It's cool because having all these reptiles over the years, I keep all this stuff, so I didn't have to go out of my way and buy all new, you know, decor and, you know, furnishing and stuff for it. Basically had all this stuff laying around. The only thing I needed to buy was a tank, because I sold all my tanks that I used to have my bearded dragons in. But basically, like a tank setup like this is completely acceptable for a garter snake. I have, of course, the 2 garter snakes in here, so this is actually a little too big for a single garter snake by itself as a baby, but because I have it in a little 2-group colony or whatnot, they'll be completely fine in here because they have each other in there to keep each other company and to basically lighten the mood so that they're not as stressed out, because when they're babies they do a lot better in groups. Come to find out, and I've done a lot of reading too, so a lot of the big breeders say that, you know, the babies do really well together, that they noticed. Garter snakes aren't a species that are, what's the word I'm looking for? Not carnivores, cannibalistic. It's possible with certain like lines, but for the most part they're not. So they do really well housed together. So did all my research years ago when I first had a garter snake and a ribbon snake that I kept together for a few years, and they did perfectly fine, never fought. You know, they were well fed. That had a lot to do with it. But as far as the caging goes, this is completely acceptable. We have a warm side that the ranges should be anywhere between 70 to 85 degrees. Obviously on the thermostat I was reaching 83.4, 83.5, which is perfect. On the cold side I'm getting a reading right now of 74.4, so I got a nice gradient. The snake needs to cool off. Got the water dish there. Of course I have a hide on the hot spot, got several hiding spots on the cool side, so that's perfectly fine. The bedding I'm using is like a coconut, like husk type, like coconut chip type bedding, which is perfect. You can use sandy chip, you can use aspen. Garter snakes aren't like ball pythons. They don't need humidity, so they don't need moist bedding. The drier the better. A lot of people mistake garter snakes as being aquatic snakes. They're not, although they are around a lot of lakes and riverbeds and whatnot because they like to hunt fish. So they can swim. They're amazing swimmers, but they're not an aquatic species. So, you know, a lot of people you'll see they'll have half their tank water, which is doing it completely wrong. I mean, the snake will do just fine, but I mean, why waste all that room, you know, where your snake could hide for something that it doesn't need, essentially. You know, a water dish is perfect. That's all it needs. So this is set up perfectly fine. It'll house these guys for the rest of their life. This is a 30 gallon, so it's 36 by 12 by 12. What else? You don't really need a heat source for these guys, but during the winter it's a good idea to have like a heat pad, potentially like a heat lamp or a ceramic like heat bulb, something like that. All I have is I have like a little small like black light that's like a little heat emitting bulb that's like a 40 watt or 60 watt. It doesn't really do much as far as heat goes, but you know, if it gets super cold I'll have that on along with the heat pad. But the heat pad's perfect because again it takes up this much space and it'll heat up the floor, and I have it on a light setting so it won't get too hot, and it's connected to a thermostat too. But again, I brought this in here just so we can, you know, get a good look at their setup. Let me see if I can find these guys. One, probably not going to be able to see, but it's hiding like right back in that corner. Yeah, not going to be able to see. That's what I noticed, their favorite hiding spot. And these guys are burrowers, so the other one is in the hide and it's all the way in the back, but you won't be able to see. I got some fish right here. These guys can eat live fish. As far as feeding goes, stay away from feeding it frogs, and do your research on what fish is acceptable, because there's certain thing inside certain fish that is toxic, and inside toads that's toxic, and these being captive bred, their immune systems aren't built to be able to handle that stuff. So, you know, whereas garter snakes in the wild, you know, since birth their immune systems are just built to be able to handle those type of food. But eventually you want to get these guys on mice, because mice overall give it all the essential vitamins that they need to thrive, whereas fish gives it some vitamins, worms give it other vitamins. And so basically while it's young, I'm going to give it earthworms. There's other types of worms. Not going to really get into all that. Night crawlers are good, but certain types of fish that are acceptable. And I'll make a video where we have some live fish in there, and I have some live worms that you guys can get a, you know, see of how these guys eat. But thanks guys, hope you enjoyed the pickups just as much as I did. I'm really excited for this project. So for the next 6 months to a year, these guys are just going to be just pets, and I'm going to build up my research, and then I'm going to start buying a little bit more and start keeping these guys you know, in little separate containers to where I can hopefully breed them one day. But yeah guys, Anthony from GranddaddyHerps. Peace.